I haven't seen that since university.
Funny, insightful interviews from a Washington McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to McKnight Tonight for this Wednesday, the 24th of September. And Amanda, are you fired up? Amanda, she did fake it very well then. Give us a better one. Oh, you can't do that and roll your eyes like this. You went, woohoo. No, you acted better than you looked. Today is World News Day, a moment to reflect on the importance of journalism in shining a light on the stories that shape our lives. You know, I'm a big advocate for our news services. I think they get a lot of flack. I think they've been put down a lot. But I always think about those reporters who risk everything, reputations, their lives at times, to bring us the news. And you know, we don't risk our lives, but that's exactly what we do here every Monday, Wednesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. We bring you the news, of course, with views. Don't forget you can catch all our episodes and extras at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. Make sure you subscribe and help us spread the word. And if you like what you see, buy me a coffee. I haven't had a coffee for a while, Amanda. Well, how do we do that? Oh, yes, buymeacoffee.com/@McKnight. No, not at. That's the YouTube one. Buymeacoffee.com/McKnight Tonight. You know it makes sense, as Sam Kekovich says. Buy me a coffee. All right. Let's have a look at what's coming up tonight. Opposition leader Sussan Ley is under fire for a secret letter she sent to US Republicans vowing to revoke Australia's recognition of Palestine if elected. Plus, Jimmy Kimmel returns to the air after last week's drama. I'll take you through what he said and what went down behind the scenes. I've got vision of it. And we'll be joined by Vicky O'Keefe as she celebrates the incredible legacy of her father, Johnny O'Keefe, in a very special one-night-only tribute concert. All that and plenty more, including a Rob's rant. Yeah, I'm ranty and ready to go in this edition of McKnight Tonight. Now let's get into our hot topics. Opposition leader Sussan Ley has ignited controversy after penning a private letter to US Republicans. In it, she vows that if the coalition wins the next election, Australia will revoke its recognition of a Palestinian state. The revelation has sparked outrage, with critics accusing Ley of conducting a rogue foreign policy that undermines the government's diplomatic stance. Supporters argue she's standing firm against what they call premature recognition, while opponents warn that the move risks damaging Australia's credibility on the world stage. I've got to say, I think this is extraordinary and outrageous, and I can't believe she hasn't been called out, but maybe that says something about the political leanings of where people sit at the commentators in this country. She is not the government. In fact, if you want to get funny about it, the Labor government has a vast majority. They won a vast majority at the last election. Now, if we don't like the policies that Labor are taking overseas as far as things like recognising a Palestinian state, we get our chance and we can make our voices heard. We can protest. We can make our voices heard when we go to the ballot box. But it's not Sussan Ley's. It's not her right to contact officials over in America and say, well, if I get in, we won't be doing that. We'll be taking it back. Well, if you want to do that, take it to the public and see if you get elected. And I would say this, if Labor tried any crap like this as well, I think it is absolutely outrageous and not her place to do it all. I just can't understand. Is she hoping that by contacting the Republicans in America, they'll give her some cash for campaigning? That is the only benefit I can see upon doing this. This is not the way politics is done in this country. It might be the way politics is done in the US, but every twist and turn Sussan Ley does, she is just digging her own grave when it comes to her political career. This is not smart politics. I don't know many Australians that would look at this and say, yeah, you've done us proud, Sussan Ley. Quite the opposite, in fact. She needs to get her tail between her legs and stop this ridiculousness. I don't mind a debate, disagree with Albanese. There's lots of things I disagree with him about. But you don't go behind Australia's back and do crap like this. And look, while we're talking about the opposition, I have to call out this bit of petty politics. Have a look at what Melissa McIntosh said today. She was having a rant about Annika Wells joining the PM at the UN in New York.
The minister has the powers right now. Right now, she could be here in this country. She has the powers to appoint an expert to oversee and look deeply into the 000 network. This cannot happen again. My question is to the minister, why is it more important for you to be at the UN in New York than here in Australia when 4 people have died?
Gee, she almost did a rant worthy of me. Not quite. Not quite. I hate this kind of politics. Politicians, especially those in power, have to travel. Annika Wells is over there talking to people at the UN Assembly about our social media, our upcoming social media ban. Don't call it a ban. I hate this legislation, by the way. If you've watched McKnight Tonight, I do not support the under 16 social media ban. I believe it should be the right of parents. But that's what she's over there doing. Now, if she was here, she is the communications minister. The things that McIntosh said there, do we not think she can do over there? She could appoint someone to do oversight, but Optus have already announced that there will be an independent inquiry into what happened. Those 4 lives, as tragic as they are not going to be resurrected because Annika Wells is in Australia. This is an opportunity for Australia to meet those in power all in one place. Or would you prefer she came back at the taxpayer's expense and then have to go over to each country and do these kind of meetings that she gets to do all in one place? Then you'd be complaining about travel expenses. That was just try hard. This is what I mean about the opposition at the moment. Can we please get an opposition that can actually do some good, pick the right issues to cane the government on? There's plenty out there, but this is pathetic. It is beyond pathetic. Stop, start, try again. No deal. Okay, let me know your thoughts. I will be getting to your feedback a little later in the show. You know how to do it. Whatever you want to say, leave it in the comments section of this video, especially on YouTube is a great place to do it, but I can take them from Facebook as well. But YouTube's the best place, youtube.com/@McKnight All right, let's talk Jimmy Kimmel. The comedian returned to television after being ripped off the air last week. Now, I'm going to take you through the key moments of his first show back, including what happened during the first commercial break after his monologue. We have footage of it. But let's start at the very beginning. Knowing the pressure was on, his writers delivered a good joke before the opening credits even rolled.
ABC chose to bring back their low-rating nighttime host.
We are in for a monologue that will be a marker in late-night show history.
It's going to be in a moment.
Yeah, no question, a huge moment in American history.
It's one of the most pivotal moments in broadcast history.
He will be delivering what is being dubbed the most anticipated monologue in late night in years.
Maybe we should change? Yeah.
Very clever. And when he came out, the crowd went wild. It was a good minute before Kimmel could even begin speaking to the enthusiastic crowd, who greeted the comedian like he'd returned from war. During the monologue, Kimmel's voice was strained. It had obviously been a big week for him.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted, if you're just joining us, we are preempting your regularly scheduled encore episode of Celebrity Family Feud to bring you this special report. I'm happy to be here tonight with you. I'm not sure who had a weirder 48 hours, me or the CEO of Tylenol.
I think that was a good reference to current politics and what's going on. And there were jokes spread throughout his first part of the monologue, and Jimmy took a serious approach as he thanked everyone from all sides of politics who had supported him.
I also want to thank all of you. Thanks to who supported our show, cared enough to do something about it, to make your voices heard so that mine could be heard. I will never forget it. And maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway.
I think that was a really important acknowledgement, because there is a big belief of free speech in America. And there were Republicans, Ted Cruz being one of them, who came out and said this is wrong. Now, I've talked on McKnight tonight about what happened, and that the Trump administration did not actually rip him off the air. But they certainly applied the pressure, saying we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Now, Kimmel then tackled the controversy that saw him removed from the airwaves, which Disney at the time said would be indefinitely.
I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers, because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
You know, I've actually got to say I like the fact that he didn't apologise. It would have felt insincere. His comments were clumsy last week. Were they worthy of being taken off the air? No, they weren't. But I'm glad that he tried to explain them. And I'm glad that he didn't apologise. Kimmel then talked a lot about the First Amendment, using quotes about freedom of speech from Trump and the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, who had supported the notion of freedom of speech until seemingly recently. This section went way too long. The point had been made, but look, obviously Kimmel had been holding all this in for a week and he wanted to have his say. The first segment of a Tonight Show usually goes for about 12 minutes. This monologue was in two parts and went for 28 minutes all up. Although, to be fair, the second segment did include a skit with Robert De Niro playing the FCC chairman, which didn't quite hit the way I think they were hoping to, but they had Robert De Niro, so, you know, good luck to them. The first segment alone, though, was 18 minutes. What's been strange about the backlash against Kimmel is that he actually posted about Charlie Kirk's death when it first happened, and he sent his love to Kirk's wife and kids. I've just said I think his comments were clumsy last week, but I do also believe they've been totally blown out of proportion. That became very evident when Kimmel spoke further about Erica Kirk, and the grace she showed at Charlie's funeral.
A moment over the weekend, a very beautiful moment. I don't know if you saw this. On Sunday, Erica Kirk forgave the man who shot her husband. She forgave him. That is an example we should follow. If you believe in the teachings of Jesus, as I do, there it was. That's it. A selfless act of grace, forgiveness from a grieving widow. It touched me deeply. And I hope it...
The emotion there is real. And it's obviously been such a big week for him. Can you imagine the intense? The whole world is talking about you getting sacked or taken off the air, and you don't know if you're coming back to your job. But of course, for some, Kimmel's comments are never going to be enough to quell the hatred and demand for blood. Some won't be happy until he is off the air completely, which doesn't sit well with my view of America and the freedoms the country supposedly believes in. And President Trump is one of those who want Kimmel gone. Before the show even aired, the president posted this message saying, "I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC that his show was cancelled. Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He's yet another arm of the DNC, and to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. That's what happens when you give in to bullies. That payment was never going to be enough." He goes on to say, "A true bunch of losers. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings." Well, as Jimmy Kimmel put it when it comes to ratings,
I do tonight.
yeah, they love that. Look, some parts of his monologue were self-indulgent, but I can't really blame him for that. It has been a big week, and he even admitted he didn't really know if he'd be coming back. Now, I was watching a live feed from the US, and what was interesting was getting to see Kimmel talking to the audience when the show went to commercial break. Now, I've zoomed in so we can see what's going on, but it stayed there for most of the break, for 2 minutes. And it was small, but not as big as I've made it. I guess this is something they do to keep people watching the ads, but it gave us an extra insight you won't get on YouTube. You could see Kimmel was relieved to have the first segment out of the way. And he even started taking questions from the audience. There he is talking. Unfortunately, we don't have audio because the commercials were playing. I wouldn't have blamed him if he went and had a bourbon and a sit down, but he kept going. He was telling the audience, obviously, how he was feeling. You can see the production people in the background doing their thing. And then he actually did take questions from the audience. But I have no idea. I'd have to get a lip reader in. You can see that nervous energy. He's just come off the biggest monologue of his life. It's amazing. It's done now. The first show is done. He will certainly have a big ratings bump. Will MAGA be happy? I wouldn't think so. It will be interesting to see how his ratings go. Will he take the ratings crown when Stephen Colbert goes in May? And will Stephen Colbert stay at #1 until May? There's a lot to play out here. From ratings is just a small part of it. Companies standing up to Trump. As I mentioned, giving him the 15, although he says it was $16 million, hasn't quelled the beast. He wants more. And he's now using that. That's actually given him an appetite to sue more, thinking Disney will capitulate. And by the sounds of it, Bob Iger, it sounds like he actually put Jimmy back on the air because his predecessor, Michael Eisner, had criticized him. And apparently Bob Iger hates him but didn't like the criticism. So who knows what the motivations are? Being able to do the show, though, is the right move. And it's good to see a comedian back and not hounded out of town by the mob.
Here comes McKnight tonight.
Okay, let's do this. You know, we were just talking about Jimmy Kimmel coming back and getting into trouble about comments he made. And I've been thinking for some time about how people during a political discourse, especially people on the hard left, will make fun of people's looks when they're arguing with people. And I don't get it, because I've always thought people on the left were supposed to care about their fellow human beings. But there is this sense that, well, if you don't agree with me, I can attack you. Someone who cops it on all the comedy shows I watch, whether it's The Daily Show, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, is this guy, Kash Patel. Now, whatever you think of his politics and what he's doing with the FBI, they all target his eyes and the way he looks, and will make comments about him looking scared or looking like he's holding in a fart or whatever. He's one example, but I see it all the time. The comedy shows will attack the looks of people. They will say, pictured here, you know, looking like he just such and such. I wish I had some examples for you. But it's just been something that's playing on my mind, that when you're having a debate with someone, haven't you lost the argument when you start making personal attacks? Isn't that where you haven't won? And I've had it happen to me. Someone will take issue with something I've put on X, and I'll argue back. And then they'll go through my profile, they'll Google me, and then they'll start coming back with stuff that's nothing to do what they're talking about. And I'm like, well, hang on. So, you're using bits of my history? Okay, you can Google, great. I use my real name on social media. You don't. You hide behind a fake name and an avatar. But instead of arguing the point that you wanted to make, and which I'm obviously bringing facts in and arguing with you, you want to go and attack me over whatever you can find. It's like this grab cash. It's like people in those money machines just grabbing for the cash. They're grabbing for facts. How can I attack this person? Oh, you're fat. You're ugly. Oh, you got sacked. This happened to you. You once got in trouble for this. Or now I'm upset with you so much that I'm going to go and tell your boss what you said, which the right are doing with Charlie Kirk. This idea, this vigilante justice that's happening, I don't support it on any side of politics. If you disagree with what someone said, disagree with them, have the argument. But doing a tattletale to your bosses and getting people sacked, I'm glad you can enjoy it. I just have a discussion. And this is the thing Charlie Kirk did. It's funny how people are using his name. Charlie Kirk, by all accounts, loved the episode of South Park that featured Cartman doing an impersonation of him. It took the piss out of him, and apparently he loved it. He loved the idea that he was on South Park, that he'd made it. Of course, what happened when he was assassinated? Paramount ripped it off. They took it down, despite what he would have wanted. The other point about Charlie Kirk is he had discussions with people. Now, a lot of people disagreed with him, but he sat there and had the discussion. If someone was winning the argument, he didn't turn around to them and say, you're fat or whatever. He had the discussion based on his facts and his debate and his point of view. Isn't that what it's all meant to be about? The left, especially, needs to stop attacking people over their looks. All right, that's Rob's rant. All right, in a moment, we're going to meet the daughter of Johnny O'Keefe. She was just 17 when her famous dad died, and she's now doing a tribute on what would have been his 90th birthday. We'll meet Vicky very soon, and I think we might be able to fit in a back-end quickie tonight. Are you up for one? Yeah, I am too. We'll have a back-end quickie, but first, one of my favourite segments, our random live shot of the day and your feedback.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
Yes, it is time for our random live shot of the day. You know I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love my random live shot of the day. And tonight we're taking you live to Washington, D.C., where it's 7:25 in the morning. That's the White House, the most famous residence in the world, streaming in real time. Now, I took this shot because today we learnt that Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will travel there in October for his first formal meeting with President Donald Trump. It is locked in for October 20. Won't Albo be breathing a sigh of relief? He got the Instagram photo today, and now he's getting the long-awaited meeting with Trump. He will be hoping that settles some people back here at home who have been going on that he can't even get a meeting with Trump. The visit will be closely watched with defence, trade and diplomacy all on the agenda. But for now, that's it. They're heading for what was the temperature range? I didn't have that in my script for some reason. Oh, light rain, 19 to 27. All right, there it is, Amanda. Thank you very much. I also had it on my script up the top. Anyway, always opening the curtain on how we do things here at McKnight Tonight. All right, let's take a look at some of your feedback coming through. Own Your Crazy says, is it me, or this is in regards to Sussan Ley and McIntosh, was it? McIntyre, who was ranting about the government and about Annika Wells. Own Your Crazy says, is it me, or are all opposition parties do oppose everything the government does? Absolutely right. I couldn't agree more with that. And we've got this one. Restoration Archive says it's quite simple. If you don't agree with your allies, you don't stand with them, but don't stand against them. And that is in regards to Sussan Ley, who did that extraordinary letter to people, to Republicans in America, saying that she won't support, she will actually turn back the recognising a Palestinian state. I'm just trying to find the name of that McIntosh. It was Melissa McIntosh. That's what was her name. Yes, I'm trying to go through all my scripts to find that. Michael T says, more examples of an opposition party who have no alternative policies, so they fall into a default opposing everything position. Do better. Good on you, Michael. Agree. 100%. Restoration Archive. We've now moved on to the Jimmy Kimmel topic. The FCC have always been nasty. They fined Stern for a segment of somebody playing a piano with their genitals. No such thing as free speech when it travels through the air. Was that on the radio? Because if it's on the radio, does it matter if someone played the piano with their genitals? Anyway, Michael T says, there is a reason the First Amendment is freedom of expression. Taking Kimmel off air achieved nothing except prove the hypocrisy of those in power, and it galvanized people behind him. That was a big thing he made a big point of in tonight's monologue. Matthew says, does he write his own stuff or just read what the writers tell him? No, he would have final say. Absolutely. He would have final say, and the writers would all be pitching ideas to him about what they think. But anything editorial is absolutely him. They might write a joke around his editorial, but he's standing there and he's taking responsibility for what he said. Own Your Crazy says, this is on the idea of attacking the person and not attacking the player and not the argument. People should stick to the issue instead of going off topic. I've been accused of going off topic a few times here on McKnight Tonight, though. Restoration Archive says, yes, Charlie was all for a logical, friendly discussion. Thank you very much for all your feedback. There's still more coming through, and I will get to it shortly after we do our feature interview, and then there will be a back end quickie. So stick around. You are watching McKnight Tonight.
Here comes McKnight Tonight.
Well, she's the daughter of Australian rock and roll royalty Johnny O'Keefe, and now Vicky O'Keefe is bringing his story home to Sydney in a one-night-only tribute concert celebrating what would have been her father's 90th birthday. The show, Vicky O'Keefe Sings the Johnny O'Keefe Story, will feature the music that defined a generation, rare family photos, and even a stirring on-screen debut between father and daughter. Vicky O'Keefe is here to tell us more about it. Welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Hi, Rob, and thank you very much for having me on the show.
Oh, look, it's an absolute pleasure. Your father was a legend, there's no doubt about that. But you were just 17 when he died. There must be mixed emotions when you're performing his songs to an audience.
Oh, look, it's an extremely emotional time for me. And given the fact that it's 90 years, I thought it would be great to do something special for Dad. It's always a very emotional experience for me performing the Johnny O'Keefe story. I've got a lot to live up to. I try to do my best with my dad's songs. I do them my own way. I love all his songs. I grew up listening to him. I went to all his shows, and I know that he's got so many people out there that absolutely love him and connect with this music. So when I'm up on stage and sharing all these songs and all these beautiful stories and photographs, it's just wonderful to see the reaction from the audience and to know that they can take themselves back to that time and relive those happy times.
Well, I'm told by my sources that one of the most powerful moments in the show is, and I mentioned this earlier, is when you duet with your dad on "I'm Counting on You." That's the song you sing with him, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
And
Look,
you use archival footage. What goes through your mind when you perform that?
Oh, look, it's just like he's there with me, actually. I'm looking up at the screen and he's looking down at me. And
Wow.
even though we never got the chance to sing together, I'm doing it now. I'm recreating it with the technology that we have. And that's that wonderful opportunity. And Dad always wanted us to sing together and me to go on the road. And we had those plans. Sadly, he passed before they came into fruition. So another reason for carrying on the legacy and continuing the O'Keefe spirit, keeping it alive for future
Yeah, and bringing back those great songs of his. What are your first memories of seeing him on stage, speaking of those songs?
My memories was his charisma on stage, and he had this presence and it captured you, and being his daughter.
I mean, look at that, Vicky. I don't know if you can see that picture, but that's him
can see
performing.
that. That's great. Yeah.
Isn't that a great picture?
Yeah, that was in the late 50s, and it was an incredible picture for them to catch that stance, you know, which is very difficult with live photography. But anyway, so it's just, I've forgotten where we were at now.
Well, is that what happens? You see a picture of your dad and you get caught up?
Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. That now I know where we're at. So when I see him, you took me away from it. When I see him on stage, I just know that the people in the audience, we do have a lot of younger people in the audience these days because Dad's loyal fans have families that have grown up on his music as well. So they all come along to the show. And when they see that some of the people who were around when those TV shows were on, it just takes them back to that complete time. There's absolute silence. You could hear a pin drop. And then at the end, this huge applause. But I tell you what, I need to sort of get a bit of a marketing campaign on tissues, because after there's not a dry eye in the house. And I've got to fight back the tears, Rob, honestly, because if I do start crying, I get all choked up and I can't sing. So I have to be strong and look up at Dad and just see that we're doing our thing together. And it's a wonderful thing.
What was he like at home? Was he a good dad?
He was fantastic. I mean, Dad was on the road all the time. He loved his kids. He was a big kid himself. He loved taking us to the Luna Park, to the Easter show, to the zoo, and basically showing us a great time. And then on the other hand, you know, we'd go to beautiful restaurants, his favourite restaurants, and he was always so well looked after and so respected. And when we'd walk into a room with Dad, it's like it was just absolutely fantastic. He had one of those faces, it was so recognisable that we couldn't go anywhere down the street without someone stopping and saying hello. And it was so great because he always took the time to stop and say hello to people. So he was very kind and generous he was very lenient in some ways with us as kids, but also very strict as well with his Catholic upbringing. But, you know, we did experience a rock and roll lifestyle when we stayed with Dad at his beautiful house at Holt Street, Double Bay with Maureen, my stepmother, and we had a great time. And when we get home, this is when we were early teenagers, when we get home to Mum, as she said, it always took 2 weeks for us to calm down and get back to reality and schoolwork and normal living again.
Well, this is why I wonder, you were just 17 when he died. How hard was it losing your dad at that age? Were you angry about it? He was known as the wild one. You know, he lived a pretty wild life. Were you angry when he died?
It's funny you should say that. It was a very difficult time, Rob, because I was in the middle of my last year of school and I was doing my HSC. I had to do it a month after he passed, and I guess I had to surge on. I pent up a lot of feelings, and I guess I did have a lot of grief. And grief takes many forms, and I put a band together and went on the road and basically worked 5 or 6 nights a week with my rock band, and I got a lot of that grief out with the band. I was performing really quite hard rock songs that I'd written for Voc Rock and working like every night and living a bit of a rock and roll lifestyle myself.
Well, I was about to say, there's a culture when you're on the road in that kind of environment. Were you sort of living a bit like your dad?
I was living like my dad, but I also, at that time, being so young, I felt like he was taken away from me. I was so looking forward to going and living with him because Mum and Dad divorced when we were young children, but they were such good friends. And he was such a big part of raising us, as well as Mum. And I was so looking forward to going and living with him after I'd finished my exams. And that didn't come. That didn't happen. And I was devastated, needless to say. And it was very difficult at school because Dad was so well known, and it was such a public event when he passed. And you know what school kids can be like. It's just like I couldn't hide. I just had to go in there and do it. So I didn't get to do that, and I did then follow a path of my own music as a bit of a rebellion. And even though people wanted me to do my dad's stuff, I just couldn't do it at that time. But now,
well, I was about to say, it's nice that you can now. That's a nice full circle moment.
I can do it now, and it brings me so much joy to carry on the legacy, my dad's legacy, and it's just part of me, and it doesn't prevent me from being an artist in my own right.
No, and you've been doing your own music and had a successful career. But I do like that you've done this. I do want to ask you one question. I don't know if you have any contact with your cousin, Andrew O'Keefe, obviously the former TV host. He's gone through a lot of troubles. I have worked with Andrew. I like Andrew very much. Do you keep in touch with him? And if you do you know how he's going?
Look, I know I haven't been in touch with him directly, but I have through his brother, my cousin. And I believe that he's doing much, much better. He's in a much better place. And prior to that, like, we were in touch, and, you know.
But drugs will do that. Drug addiction does that. It tears people apart.
Exactly, yeah. But I didn't experience anything, you know, myself. You know, we spent a lot of time as kids, you know, our families together with the cousins, and we used to have such a good time. And I think as you get older, you're carving your own path, you have your own
course.
family, and you do drift apart a bit. But Andrew and I were going to do some things together. And, it's just very sad. And you can only hope that, people can bring happiness back into their life and get over their hurdles. I know that my dad did. He was an extremely strong person, and even after his accident and going through all his turmoil, getting back into television and into his incredibly hectic career with recording and touring, young family, he pulled himself together and he got through it, and he always reinvented himself with the ever-changing music industry. With the Beatles coming out, things change.
Yeah, they do.
And you get older and you always got to reinvent yourself. And he did. And that's when he brought out Mockingbird. He did Sunbury. He absolutely brained it at Sunbury. And had a hit single with Mockingbird and So Tough, and was just starting to bring himself, into the 70s, and managed to tour all this brand new circuit, the club circuit, was packing it out night after night after night, and was booked solid, absolutely booked solid.
Well, you've got this event on October 12 at the Pavilion Performing Arts Centre. I mean, I sort of get a sense of this. Why is this night so important to you? It's Australian music history, isn't it?
It's Australian music history, 90 years. This is Dad's 90th year this year. It's also a week after his anniversary of his death. It's 6 days after he passed on the 6th of October. 12th of October is very, very close to that. Not only that, it's one night only, and I'm coming home to Sydney where it all began. So I'm just so excited. I haven't had the opportunity, and even more so, to be coming to the Shire, the Sutherland Shire, into a wonderful venue like the Pavilion. And the Sutherland Shire, I actually lived in the Sutherland Shire for a short time during Voc Rock. I lived in Sylvania Waters. And,
oh, wow.
And we had a residency, Voc Rock had a residency at the Carring Bar in the Cronulla Hotel and the Sylvania Hotel. So it
really is coming home for you.
And it's my old stomping ground, so I'm really excited, Rob, yeah.
Well, your show, The Johnny O'Keefe Story, a heartfelt story through a daughter's eyes, is on Sunday, the 12th of October, as you said, at the Pavilion Performing Arts Centre in Sutherland, in Sydney. For tickets, just go to vickyokeefe.com, or you can go to thepavilionarts.au. It looks set to be a great night. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us on McKnight tonight.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful chatting with you, and I love what you do. Thank you very much for your support.
Oh, thank you, and good luck with it all.
Thank you.
Wasn't she amazing? Look, I could see that there's some kind of buffering issue going on. Amanda, are we having some problems?
Yes.
Okay. Don't know why that's happening.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, look, we will wrap up the show. It sounds like people were buffering. So what I will do is I will clip that interview up ASAP and put it as a separate clip. It is well worth. She's fascinating. I was actually really enjoying the interview. So look, we'll wrap it up there. I'll hit the music and I'll see you tomorrow for a Tipsy Thursday where hopefully the streaming's better. We'll try and work out what's going on. All right. It's good night from McKnight.
It's good night from McKnight tonight.